Welcome back. In this step, we will start working the final line art of our illustration. This step will determine the outline of each of our elements, so now is the moment to spend some extra time taking care of details. We will start by reducing the opacity of our sketch group until it's faint enough. We should be able to see the sketch clearly at around the 20% mark. Now we will create a new layer on top of the sketch group, which we will rename to Lineart. This is the layer we will be using. Since the canvas has 300 dpi, we will be setting the size of the brush to 18 points, which will give you a wide range of pressure variation to work with. I'll start the line art with the character's hoodie. Using a graphics tablet gives us the possibility to give different weights to the line we are creating in real time, which results in a more natural looking line art rather than one where the lines are all the same width. These line values are the result of applying different amounts of pressure onto the tip of the pen when drawing. The harder you press down, the thicker the line will be, while the lighter the pressure is, the thinner the stroke will become. At first, this might be a bit complicated and the lines you make won't exactly be the way you want them to be. So, practice is the best method to make your drawing look the way you want to, and to have a better control over the brush tool. One good tip is to keep in mind the position of the elements you're drawing and their weight as well. For example, in this case, the character's arm is nearer to the viewer, so the lines on that part are going to be thicker, as well as other lines like the folds on the clothings. I'm also taking into consideration the weight of the elements I'm rendering. For example, body parts will have a thicker line than cloth because they're heavier, but keeping perspective also into account. When working on the line art, we can also use the warp tool if we feel like the balance on the line art is not appropriate. For example, in this case, I felt like the arms were a bit too long and bulky at the end. So I'll be using the warp tool to modify the line art a little bit. We will start by pressing Ctrl plus T to transform. Next, we will go to Edit, Transform, and Warp. This will show us a grid on top of our selection. We can then select and move either one of the nodes or the whole square area as much as we want. I suggest to use this tool carefully and not stretching or deforming the line art too much, since then it would look a bit too edited. In this case, a few tweaks on the top and sides will suffice to achieve what we want. As you can see, most of the lines on this line art do not close. This is because the coloring will be done using the lasso tool rather than the bucket tool. And when all lines are perfectly close, they take away a bit of the natural look from the drawing. Here's an example of line weights. In this case, I'm tracing over the hair section. Notice how the lines differ quite a lot when compared to the lines from the jacket or the body. This is because hair is almost weightless, and thus its lines will be thinner ones in this drawing. As you can see, I haven't changed the brush settings at any moment to work on the hair. This is achieved, as I mentioned before, by applying very little pressure to the tablet's pen. If you are having difficulty with the different line weights, I'd suggest you vary the brush settings a bit, but just enough for you to also get some practice while using that tool. Otherwise, you'll have to be changing it over and over again, when it's actually possible to do the whole drawing in just one appropriate setting. Small details are to be added at this point. For example, I add small lines or texture-like lines to emphasize on the fact that objects have volume. For example, on the helmet, where I've added some lines on the edges so it doesn't look like a flat surface. Same with details on the clothes, especially on folds. A quick extra tip. Remember that comfort might be one of the main factors for a good line art. So if you feel like your hand is in an awkward position when drawing, just hold the R key to activate the rotation tool, and zoom as close or as far as you need to keep your hand in a comfortable position when drawing. This will ensure that you are making the best lines possible and in result give us a quality work. These steps are to be applied to every element in the drawing. Be sure to keep in mind the line weights, which should also differ from element to element, taking also into account the hierarchy between these. If there are certain parts that you will be adding with type, leave them blank until the layout step where we will place text appropriately. This step might be one of the longest ones, but it's crucial for a good result. So take the time you need to work on it until you're happy with the line art, and then we will move on to the next step, which is adding volume to our drawing by doing dot work using a scatter brush. This will give our illustration a little extra texture and give our elements more weight before working on the color section. Once you are done with your line art, let's move on to the next step. See you there.